if you ever have used the product Ecover, may I recommend you not to use it anymore? I recommend you not to use it because it is based on palm oil, and the shock in my life was when I was in Indonesia and I had this ecological factory. I had this biodegradable product. But I was in Indonesia and I saw, the guru, who thought he was the guru, the guru, was destroying the habitat of the orangutan. I was destroying the rainforests while cleaning up the rivers in Europe, and that's when I knew the difference between what is called unintended consequences and collateral damage. When you don't know, it's unintended. When you know, it's collateral damage. And so in 1994, I sold all my businesses. I sold all my businesses with one great priority. I want to create a better world for my children. I mean, I have 6 kids. Can I see the next one? That's another 2 boys and the next one. And these are, I have 6 children, 5 boys. Yes, I adopted Cheeto because my chromosome seems to be boys only. So I needed to shift to, adopting a girl. Otherwise, I would generate too much overpopulation in this world. But when you have children, there is no other way than to look at the reality of the world through the eyes of your children. When I had to make the choice, shall I sell my company Ecover or should I try to improve? I asked myself, how would my children look at me when I would stay hooked on the cash flow and start to continue to slowly but steadily make some changes, or am I ready to make a rupture and go for something completely new? So in 1994, I dedicated to create a complete new business model. A business model where we foresee the collateral damage and therefore we don't have to pollute less to be environmental sound. Because polluting less is polluting. Stealing less is stealing. If a child would stand, or a man would stand, or a woman would stand before a judge and would claim that I promised to steal less, what would the judge say? But what do we do with companies that have promised us to pollute less? We give them environmental awards. We have a double moral. You either pollute or you don't pollute. You steal or you don't steal. Can we have the clarity in our moral objectives? So therefore, next one please. I had the great fortune to be inspired by many people, and I do not want you to think that the projects I'm presenting are done by me. I'm very fortunate to be inspired by many people, and many more than I could ever get on this picture, who criticized me, who challenged me, who supported me, but who told me I was nuts and I was wrong as well. And that builds up the energy, because if we are innovative today, it's because we're part of an ongoing dialogue with society all around the world. And only when we have the ongoing dialogue, we can challenge our minds and see more. Now, I would like you to look at this. Where are we? Come on, sweet, you know this. Kiruna, okay. Now, do you think this is your most environmental picture you could ever show to a tourist? This is shame on you. I'm sorry, I'm the foreigner, I'm going to tell you. This is not your best reference, and moving half a town in order to get more of your ore out, you need to not now think negative. You have to ask yourself, how can we turn the mess that we're making around in doing something great? And unfortunately, our businesses, our core businesses, stuck with a core competence. We're looking for economies of scale, standardized products, outsourcing, control of costs. And as a result, we have this, because we think we can't afford. Well, it's true, within the business you can't afford, but what are we doing next? Next. This is South Africa. This is gold mining, same as your iron ore mining. But what are we making today? Next. We're making paper from this. If you're in the paper industry, be warned by this message. We're making paper from stones. We're converting the tailings, the waste rocks that have been crushed from the mines. We blend it with 20% PET bottles, P-E-T, and that gives us a paper. Next. I have the most unlikely partners, ExxonMobil, my God. I would never have expected them to join me. But they're buying already 12,000 tons of stone paper, which is waste from mines, converted into a paper that is produced without water, 0 water. And it's 100% recyclable forever. Now, this is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in models that change the rules of the game. Because we can't just improve. We've been trying to improve for the past 40 years. And what's the result? You've seen the statistics. You know those politicians can never agree globally. So we as entrepreneurs, as business people, have to take things in our hand, and we have to change the rules of the game and do much better than anyone imagined before. And I tell you, making paper without water and only using 20% of the energy. If I were owning shares in paper mills, I would sell them now. They're already under stress, but they will under more stress. And so what we're in need of is business models that indeed create a stress on the market, because we're shifting to something that is so fundamentally different. Now I tell you, this project has mobilized already $1 billion. We have 3 factories in China. Europe doesn't want to hear it, and I understand why. America doesn't want to hear it. Canada doesn't want to hear it. But China has decided to go for it. Next. So, since no one believes me, I have to write children's stories. Because, you know, there's one beauty about a child. It doesn't make a difference between fantasy and reality. Everything is reality. So I write these children's stories, and these children's stories go to all the kids. Now, I'm sorry to say they're not available in Swedish, not in Sweden. I haven't found a publisher yet, but maybe this is the moment to invite a publisher to come forward and tell me, yeah, this may be not a bad idea, but I will only print on stone paper. Where is my file? I have lost it somewhere. We will only print on stone paper. Now, this is one of the things we do. We go all the way. Next. Now, what is this? This is called a thistle. Now, when you get thistles? Well, you get thistles when the European Union is actually paying farmers not to farm. It's an amazing thing, right? So here we are in Sardinia, and there's 70,000 hectares of land that is not farmed. So what do you get? Thistles. So what do you do with the thistles? Next. Here you have Porto Torres in Sardinia, the first cracker petrochemical facility in Europe. And of course they had very privileged prices from Libya until Mr. Gaddafi left this world. And then the privilege prices were not applied anymore, and then this factory had to be closed down. We took over the facility, and we converted this to the first large-scale biorefinery in the world. We're processing thistles. Now, you want to know the cost price of thistles? You don't have to irrigate, you don't have to plant, you don't have to replant, you don't have to put herbicides, you don't have to put pesticides. The only thing you have to do is find a machine that will harvest it, because no one thought about harvesting thistles before. So we got this machine that harvests the flower, harvests the stem, and when we want, we can harvest the roots. Next. And we crack out of there all these products. We crack elastomers for rubber. That is, for the chemists, it's pelargonic esters, if you would like to know. We're having polymers, we're having lubricants, we even make Illy's coffee pots out of thistle plastics now. So feel better next time you have your little Illy coffee and you say, oh, that's made from thistles. But what we're doing is we're changing something that is generating more value. So my message is, the business models of the future have to generate more value and stop looking at cutting costs. If you continue cutting costs, you will be part of the globalized economy, and as Europeans, you lose. If you're generating more value, you will win, because we generate 6 cash flows out of a thistle. And then even shale gas doesn't make sense for us. Because shale gas makes your cost lower. So what? My cost is even much lower than shale gas if I can start with a thistle. So that means I have the lowest cost price because I use a readily available material, and on the island of Sardinia I can have 360,000 tons. And my waste, next, is converted to animal feed and enzymes for cheese. Yeah, bacterial enzymes from the flowers, we use them to make goat cheese. We start competing head-on with Novozymes because we have it so cheap, Novozymes cannot imagine. We may even have a lawsuit that we're dumping. It's too cheap to be true. It's too cheap to be true because if you're only focusing on making the enzyme, then this is too cheap. But since we're having 5 other cash flows, and now we can offer the farmers animal feed for 250 euro a ton. That's a fraction of the 600 euro a ton for soy from Brazil, certified non-GMO. As a result, we're using what is locally available to generate a local economy. That's what we need, and the money circulates locally. Now, as economists, we all learned, I have an MBA from INSEAD, and so we all learned that when you have money flowing through the local economy, you can grow the local economy, but it needs to flow faster, and you need to have local products in return. Otherwise, you have inflation. We're generating 6 products. You know how much cash we crack out of a ton of thistles? 3,700 euro. You don't crack it out of petroleum. So what I'm saying is that we have a highly competitive strategy using a readily available material with a chemistry that we've been debating for years. My first meeting on biorefineries was at the Kungl. Vetenskapliga Akademien 30 years ago, but they talked about it and we were doing it. It's a 540 million euro investment. It was inaugurated 4 months ago. And we have only just begun. Because how many more refineries, petrochemical refineries, are going to close down in Europe because the naphtha price is not competitive to make it here? And shale gas is not going to make the difference. It's cutting costs. We as Europeans need to increase the value. Next, please. Next, please. Now, Sweden loves coffee. When I talked to Lisa and I said, which cases should I have? Because we have in total 188 projects implemented, 4 billion euro capital invested, 3 million jobs generated. And so we needed to choose which projects, and Lisa said, oh, we're coffee drinkers in Sweden, talk to me about the coffee. So here is the coffee. So what do we do with this? I really miss my little bag. I don't know where, I think I left it there. You see? May I just ask, I see this incredible orange color. Yes. That's why I actually have this bag, because it always turns up somewhere, because it's so visible. Next, please. Now we're going to be in tandem. Next, 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 next. Keep on going. So first we drink the coffee, then we grow mushrooms on the waste of the coffee. The waste of the mushrooms, after we have harvested them, is animal feed. And then the waste that we have left over, we turn into T-shirts. We have a deal with Patagonia, we have a deal with Adidas. We make T-shirts that is 8% coffee. Now, why do we do it? Because the coffee on the world market price is only $600 a ton. Polymers for textiles is $1,800 a ton. If we really want to save the farmers, you can do fair trade coffee. Fair, thank you for doing that. But that is giving 20% more. I'm giving them 4 times more. And I'm giving them 4 times more because Adidas, Boss, and Patagonia recognizes that when they have coffee in the textiles, it absorbs the body odor. Now, are we ready to pay for that? Oh, you bet you were ready to pay for that. But what's the nice thing of it? It is a lower cost and a higher functionality, so we don't have to charge more. So what is the result? The bottom line is that the farmers are getting saved, not because we were generous with them, it's because the coffee is reinvented as a biochemical, unique product. Next, please. And then we put it, of course, in the carpets. Not because we spill coffee on the carpet, because the carpet has coffee, so it absorbs smells. Next one. And we put it in the refrigerators, because you have this padding in the refrigerators. I should talk to Electrolux. No one from Electrolux in the room, by any chance? I mean, we put it in refrigerators, and the refrigerator absorbs the bad odor, like Grandma used to do. My grandmother was using coffee in the refrigerator, and then we put it in paint. Now, have you ever looked at coffee like this before? Now, we can't follow demand. Now, who is thinking of high-growth industrial projects with a commodity like coffee? That's because we are stuck in a core business, core competence logic with a clear focus on standardized products that are produced through supply chain management, where we press the costs out to the maximum possible, starting with the farmers, of course. We need to change the business model. If we don't have a more human business model, and it's not more human business model because we want to be more human, it's because we want to be more competitive. Competitiveness is the game, but we can outcompete because we have new models. Next, please. Yeah, this is Katrina, my wife. She sits here in the front. She translates that, and this is, of course, the hare, who, you know, the famous race of the hare against the turtle. Yeah, you know, the hare doesn't have to use any perspirants anymore. It can just use the coffee shirt, and it's fine. So this is a coffee shirt for the hare. After, of course, it has been eating its mushrooms, because it should eat mushrooms on the waste of the coffee as well. Next, please. And we have a great partnership with Timberland. You know, now you can buy Timberland shoes, and it says, drink it, wear it. So the inside of the shoe has actually up to 20% coffee. So when you take off your shoes, you don't have to be embarrassed. It works. And when it works, people buy. This is where we need to go. Be innovative with what we have. To me, the business model of the future is resource efficiency, where we agree we use what we have. We're not expecting the earth to produce more. We will do more what the earth is already producing for us. And getting coffee in your shoes is not such a bad idea, particularly with my feet. Next one. Now, I'm going to bother you. Ladies and gentlemen, Swedes. I'm perhaps one of the only non-Swedes in this audience, but this is what you like to eat. Löjrom, kalixlöjrom. But normally you don't eat it in the small portions. Next, please. Normally you have it in these portions. When you do decide to eat it, you get a good spoon of it. Now, may I be a nuisance to you today and perhaps ask you to think differently in the future? Next, please. Yeah, next one. Yeah, this is real what happens. Now, may I just suggest to you the following thought. There is a farmer who has a cow. And the cow is going to deliver a calf in about a week's time. And the farmer decides to take the cow to the slaughterhouse. What would you think? You'd feel bad. You'd feel upset. But this is what Sweden is doing all the time. This is what everyone in the world is doing. Females with eggs are being killed. Now, how do you want sustainable fishery? You know how many eggs in one fish? I mean, this fish is losing 10,000 eggs. That means 10,000 fishes. How do you ever want to have sustainable fisheries in the future when you're killing the females with eggs? Next, please. So we should learn from the whales and the dolphins. Because the whales and the dolphins, they fish with air bubbles. And they release the air bubbles, which pushes the fish to the surface, and then they just pick them. But the females, full with eggs, are too heavy and escape the bubbles. Smart, isn't it? I mean, if we have to learn from nature, I think this is one of the greatest things we learn from nature. So, next one. We're designing new boats. This is the new fishing boat. It's a catamaran. This is not on the market yet. We expect it to be there in 2 to 3 years' time. We have a catamaran. We release bubbles. The fish come up. We scoop them into the catamaran. We put them onto the side, which is only 4 degrees water. And then we pass them through the same machine that most of you ladies use to check if you're pregnant. I mean, we can find if we're pregnant with only, 1 egg. They have 10,000 eggs, 5 million eggs, 10 million eggs. Easy to find. You don't have to be too precise. But now, what we're doing is we're finding the fish, and when we have a female with eggs, back into the sea. No, I didn't say change. This was, back into the sea. We have tested this on the island El Hierro in the Canaries, and within 2 years, the fish stock moves back to the level of 1950. Do we need political agreements on quotas, which we never get anyway? Or are we ready to change the technology, change the concept, learn from the whales? Now, the whales and the dolphins has been doing this for millions of years. We've been fishing for 6,000 years. So we kind of have a little catching up to do on our intelligence. But what I'm submitting to you is that unless we fundamentally change the logic that we've had for the past decades, we're never going to be sustainable. We're only going to do less bad. Whereas time has come to do more good. Next. Yes, and this is one of my fables. It's, fishing without nets. When I tell this to children, I tell the fable that the whale and the dolphin can fish without nets and the female never gets caught in the bubbles. I mean, children just cannot imagine how barbarian the parents are. I mean, they feel like they have to create a special commission under the United Nations to protect the female fishes. And maybe we should do that as well. And maybe we should change our appetite and our habits of eating luxury in the future. Next, please. Everything I do is translated to fables. I believe the key for the future is that we inspire the children. They believe they can do so much better than their parents. If we as parents only teach our children what we know works, we will never be sustainable. We'll never be competitive. We have to create this huge degree of freedom whereby the children can imagine things that are dreams for the parents but reality for the children. It's the only way. Create the space of freedom. And we don't do that. If I'm telling the story to my children about, where is it here? The strongest tree. And it's printed on stone paper. I have a feeling for stone paper because you never felt it before. If you feel stone paper, then we do know that, for example, now in China, we have 10 million copies of each fable in libraries and schools, and the children feel that there is a difference. But not only that, the book costs only $1.50 because when the book has been used and a little bit too dirty, then they just give it back to the publisher. The publisher gives 75 cents, and now we can circulate all the time because the book and the paper can be recycled 1,000 times. Now we've changed the logic. That means we can recycle for 100 years, 200 years. Now how, and now I'm asking the business people in the audience, particularly the bankers perhaps, how do you put it on your balance sheet? If you don't have paper as a cost, but an asset that accumulates over years, you have a different balance sheet. Now we can do balance sheet-based operations. That is very different than saying, customer, pay more because you're saving the world. And this is the shift we need. We need not only have the technology and the business models need to be translated into effective results in terms of cash flow, profit and loss, and asset valuations. And if you don't do that, forget the rest. Because this is a world that, in the end of the day, is still a capitalistic world. Next. Every fable is translated in different languages. Here is the Arabic version. And every fable has a song, and every fable has a dance. And next, and every fable has a toy. Now, you remember the title of the fable? It said, "Can apples fly?" Isn't it amazing that we teach children how the apple goes down from the tree, and we don't bother to explain to children how the apple got up in the tree in the first place? You know, isn't this strange? And may I challenge you, could you explain to me how the apple got up? And I tell you, I'm not going to have more than 2-3 people who will be able to summarize in 3 minutes to me how the apple got up. If you only know how it comes down, what do you know in life? Life is circular, it has to go up and down. And so as a result, with this toy, next picture please, and I'm nearly finished, 2 seesaws with a pump attached to it is simulating capillary veins into the tree. It goes 24 meters high, fills up the water in a ball. The ball fills up with water, becomes heavy, starts going down. When it goes down, it opens up, and we're explaining capillary powers, capillary veins, and trans-evaporation. Try to explain that to a child of 4 or 5 years old. Try to explain it to many of us. We wouldn't get it the first time. But children sitting on the seesaw, they get it. They know exactly how it works, because everyone gets wet except them. Next. I summarize my work in something that's called the blue economy. I must humbly submit to you that when I wrote the book as a report to the Club of Rome in 2009, I could never have imagined that we would have, 5 years later, 188 projects. I could never have imagined in my wildest dreams that we could have 3 million jobs generated. It's not enough, but it's much more than I could dream of. And I think this is one of my last messages to you in this presentation. We can't be satisfied with too little, too fast. We have to become much more ambitious. We have to set the rules way beyond what we think is reasonable. We have to become unreasonable. So unreasonable that we know, if this is possible, this not only will be a sustainable world, this will be a happy world. Thank you. Next.